It is, in fact, November 15th of 2023. It is, in fact, chilly outside in North Carolina, and you're on Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy. And if you don't know by now, I am not Randy. I am Teddy. Teddy Burris. My business is all about teaching LinkedIn as a business tool, helping business professionals in all kinds of roles and all kinds of purpose in life figure out how to use LinkedIn to achieve their goals. Randy will tell you that he has seen me standing on a street corner proselytizing the power of using LinkedIn as a business tool. And I do one-on-one coaching, corporate training. I do seminars, keynote speeches where I charge a minimum of $25,000 for a 30-minute keynote in my mind. And but I show up every Wednesday with my good buddy Randy Wooden, and we do this show called Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy. And it's fun to do. We've been doing it since April of 2020. Randy, do I have all my ducks in a row, buddy? And it's fun to do. We've been doing it since. Whoop! Did I lose you, Randy?
Yeah, I'm here now. I think. Am I still here?
Yep. Is it everything up and running?
No. The LinkedIn decided to take a smoke break or a lunch break, one of the two.
All right, I'll go work on that.
So then I started fiddling with Facebook, and then I clicked the wrong button because I'm clueless and started replaying the first minute of our shows.
Oh, I'll work on what's going on LinkedIn.
Anyway, so here we are. Wow. We're halfway through the month, November 15th already. So moving right along with another week of Lunch with Randy and Teddy. My name is Randy Wooden, director for the Professional Center by Goodwill, based here in Winston-Salem. But we have clients across the country, as many of you may know. Most are here, though, like I said, in Winston area. We're happy to help you if you're in a job search, maybe thinking about a search, or you know people who I had two people today that said, hey, I've got a friend of mine. You may want to reach out to them. So again, just find me on LinkedIn. You can reach out and we'll get you on the calendar. Now, every Wednesday, Teddy and I get together, have a little fun. We learn some things, and today's no exception. So today we're going to learn a little bit more about, well, I'll let Teddy cover that in a little more detail and introduce you, and then I'll get you with the infamous why question right after that.
So I fixed LinkedIn, Randy. It's up and running.
Oh, okay, good.
Yep.
Good.
And so all you had to do was say, hey, Teddy, will you fix this? And I'm all over it with my hammer and chisel, dude.
Perfect. Wave that magic wand. There you go.
All right. So let's see here. I got everybody in front of me. Oh my golly, Nikki, 8,000 people have showed up so far. So, hey, so our special guest today is Nikki Burris, and I'm obligated to offer explanation. Nikki is not my great-granddaughter. We have discovered that as fact. Nikki is also not my youngest niece. I don't believe there's any direct relationship between Burris with one S and Burris with two S. But I will tell you this. Nikki's a fun lady, a smart lady, and I absolutely enjoy my conversations with her, which is why I invited her to join the show and have a conversation with us about, I've titled it, Retirement Living Options. And there's a lot of them. A lot of this conversation will be based around organizations that can help with retirement living, Salemtowne being one of them. We'll talk a little bit more about them. But Nikki's been doing this, been involved in this industry for quite some time, working for Salemtowne. Nikki, would you say hello to our audience and introduce yourself a little better than I just did?
Oh, thank you, Teddy. So hello, I'm Nikki Burris. I have been working for Salemtowne for about 18 years, been in the retirement living industry all in probably about 20 years. I'm a little different than what would normally be sitting in a marketing and sales position. I'm a social worker by trade. So love helping people find what is the right fit for them.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you've been in the business now, you said almost 20 years. So I always ask the why question because I'm always curious about the motivation that got things started and keep things going over 20 years. So what's your why and how that all came about? If you could share that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So my why, I had the opportunity to work with older adults early on in my career and went back to school to get my graduate degree in social work, and worked in a different industry for a while, and got to a place that I was a little burnt out. So I thought back over my career and thought about, who did I enjoy working with the most? Because I'd worked with every different age group, and older adults really stood out because there's so much I have personally gained from working with older adults. So much my life has been enriched by knowing all the people that I've gotten to know over my tenure with working in the retirement industry. So, and I really like assisting people. The answer might not be Salemtowne, but if I can help you determine what's the right fit for you and help you in that path, because it's confusing and it's a major decision, and not one that sometimes people put a lot of thought into. We don't want to wait till there's a crisis and try to make a decision. That makes it a lot harder. What I like to think about is, like, think about the last time you planned a vacation and how much time you spent planning that perfect vacation, where you were going to go, all the sights you were going to see. But we don't put that type of thought and time into our future and where we're going to live in retirement, or if something goes wrong and there is a health crisis, how are we going to get through that? Because retirement living does take investment and planning. And so if I can help somebody get the right fit, then that makes me a happy person.
I appreciate that. Appreciate you sharing that. And we're going to unpack a lot of that and more. But I just wanted to chime in here to see if you had comments or questions for Nikki, our guest. Put them in the chat area. I'll keep an eye on that. Teddy's going to run the show today, and he will do it error-free from here on out.
Randy, your expectations need to be managed.
Drop it down a little bit. I practice that every day, Teddy. So I'm used to that. But anyway,
you and me both.
I digress.
Yeah, all good, buddy. All good. So,
yep.
Nikki, by the way, Randy, Nikki just told us why she showed up here. She says she likes to hang out with old people.
That's true.
So I get that, Nikki, and you and I may have talked about a project I'm working on, and my retirement project is to find a place to hang out and help people that I enjoy helping. So I get what you're saying, yeah. So let's figure out what these things are. By the way, there's lots of retirement living spaces. I could stay where I'm at now. I could move into the basement of one of my daughter's houses. I could move into the apartment over the garage with another daughter. Let's see, the third daughter has a bonus room that I can move into. And I also have another daughter with an open lot that I could pitch some 2x4s and plywood and move in there. May not be the best way to do that. So, because they may ignore me, especially when I get to the point where I need help. But let's talk about, what's IL, AL, NSF, CCRC. Let's talk a little bit about what are these different types of, retirement support living systems. So
yeah, let's define those. What does AL stand? What is it? Yeah.
Okay. Start with that and break those down for us.
Okay, so there's independent living, which is like it sounds like it. You're independent, but you might live in a community with other people that are independent living. Residential living, you'll hear that term a lot as well. So then it is like the 55 plus community independent living. So those are for active, healthy folks that just want to live among other people that are around the same age. Assisted living.
So let's talk about independent for a minute.
Okay.
We'll dig into that. So independent, who can move into an independent living environment?
So independent living, if you really don't need assistance in your home already and you're healthy and active, you can move in. And it really depends on the place you're moving to. There are independent living communities out there that they're independent living only. And so you might have some deficits that you need a little of assistance with, and they have people built in to help you with those. So it really would be asking like what they offer and if they can meet your needs.
So I have a really good friend of mine in Greensboro who is fairly healthy, doesn't have any, mobility challenges, no mental challenges other than the fact that he is freaking messed up in the head, but that's a whole nother issue. He and his wife, they retired. They're 70. He and his wife sold their home and they moved into Friends West. They moved into an independent living facility.
Yeah.
They didn't need to, but here's why he did it, Nikki. His wife didn't want to cook anymore. Didn't want to clean anymore. So they're in a condo, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, is that a reason for people to move into an independent living space?
Well, we would always want people to move in that have a want versus a need. But that, I mean, I'm not saying that there are defined gender roles here, but we many women that have come to live at Salemtowne have said, well, I don't feel truly retired until I don't have the responsibility of cooking. So I can totally relate to what your friend
Girl,
said.
I can relate too.
I wonder.
I personally cannot. My husband does all the cooking, so I'm very lucky.
Well, there you go.
But that is, I mean, we hope that when you move in, so Friends Home West is a continuing care retirement community as well. So we hope that people move in because they want to unburden themselves from home ownership. Yeah. I mean, that is one of the perks of moving into a continuing care retirement community, is that you don't have to worry about who replaces the roof, who cooks dinner at night, because all that can be handled for you with one phone call, or just go down to the the different restaurant options that your community offers. So
I have a question now. My dad has since passed. This is back around 2002, 3, 4, 5, that time frame. And he bought I guess it was a condo. It was a condo in Sarasota, Bradenton area. And to buy it, you had, or to live in it, you had to be over 55. And when I hit 55 at some point, Teddy, I'll let you know.
I hear you, buddy. I hear
you. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Anyway, where I'm going with this is from a legal standpoint. Are there? He didn't have there was no assistance that I'm aware of. I mean, it was just, this was a place that was exclusively for folks that were in AARP territory.
Yeah.
And I couldn't live there. I probably could own it, and I think I did when he died. And then I sold it. But I'm wondering, from a legal standpoint, are there communities where in North Carolina where you can only live there if you're over a certain age, and these don't have to be where somebody replaces the light bulb for you or does whatever. It's like you own your own little home in a community of senior citizens only.
Yes.
That makes sense.
Yeah. There is. So the 55 plus, I don't know that has as strict regulations, because it's probably more of a real estate transaction. And so if you're not 55, maybe that's okay. But in continuing care retirement communities, we do have an entry age limit. Ours is 62. There might be some that are 60, some are 65. So there is a minimum age requirement to move in.
So in where you're talking about with, let's say, Salemtowne, if I move in there, and I'm 63, so I'll throw that out there. I know Teddy thinks I'm 83, but I'm not, Teddy. I'll get there.
Yeah.
So if I were to move into Salemtowne, so I passed the age test, so I'm in. But if I did move in, then would I have the option of just saying I don't want any help with anything or is that part of what comes with the package if somebody does move into a facility like yours?
So if you move into Salemtowne or a continuing care retirement community, and these can differ throughout the state, like there's different contract types. So some people will say, like you'll hear people in the industry saying you have to walk in. So you can't have any physical disability or need assistance already before you come in, like you don't already need assistance to come into independent living. They differ. So you would have to look at your individual community to see what it is. But there is a medical qualification to entry, because if you are, say, a higher level, like assisted living level, we could take you in the assisted living level versus the independent living level.
Mm-hmm.
Now this will start making sense as we go and talk about, assisted living and SNF and CCRC, because the whole idea behind CCRC is that there's an answer for everybody based on their needs. Did I say that right, Nikki?
That's correct.
You're teaching me, girl. I'm learning. So, all right. So independent living, I can move in there because I don't want to clean my house or cook anymore. I don't want to take care of my home. But at a certain age, I can move in and somebody's going to help me do these things. I can either order my Chick-fil-A through Uber Eats, or I can go to one of the restaurants that's on the property, or go to the dining community that's on property, whatever's available.
Yep. We had a question too that one of Denise had asked. She says, if I'm 55, but my husband is younger, can we move into the 55 plus community, even though the husband is not yet 55?
So 55 plus communities are a little different. I mean, there might be some that are related to it, like there's Jimmy Buffett's, like kind of Margaritaville type of thing. There's Del Webb. So there's, and like the big one, the Villages in Florida. So those are like 55 plus. And so they don't have as many regulations, but a continuing care retirement community that does have a minimum age, whether that be 60, 62, 65, that is true. If there's two people that move in together, at least at Salemtowne, and I think all the CCRCs here in Winston-Salem, as long as one person, if two people are moving in together, as long as one person is the age limit, then the other person can be younger. Yes.
We keep kicking around CCRC, Teddy. I got to jump in here because I can't be the only one. Just, you don't have to go into detail, but what is CCRC? What is it?
Sorry. It's a continuing care retirement community, meaning we have 3 levels of care: independent living, assisted living, and skilled nursing. So skilled nursing, that's what a lot of people think of as nursing home.
Yeah.
I got you.
So Denise, is that noise I hear in the background your husband clapping? So, all right, I get independent living. And I, by the way, I know people who have gone the journey, and so it's interesting to see this journey from independent living. So let's talk about assisted living. And what's that all about? How's that work? And I know there's variability to all of this, but talk a little bit about assisted living.
Okay. So assisted living is for people that need a little bit of assistance with something called activities of daily living. And that might be bathing, dressing, transferring, even assistance with walking or going to the bathroom. A lot of times assisted living is also needed for medication management, which is technically an IADL, but that is for people that need some type of assistance. So there's plenty of them in our area. They can be a standalone, like a Brighton Gardens or a Brookdale, or they could be part of a continuing care retirement community like Salemtowne or Arbor Acres or Brookridge. So there's lots of different options, but it's for people that need some assistance. And based on how much assistance you need is whether or not that assisted living could meet your needs.
Yeah. And it could be as simple as, I just need someone to make sure I take my medicine every morning and every evening.
Yes.
Yeah. I get it.
Yeah, I remember that was, I think my grandfather had that, and there was, they would check in on him 3 times a day to make sure he didn't fall or something like that. But even he was ambulatory, but they would just just double check. But they had a meal, like, he would go sit down and dine, but he never had to necessarily fix any food, just in case somebody might be. And I've known people who are, let's say, my age, but life is what it is, and they're caring for their grandchildren because for whatever reason their children aren't in the picture and whatever. So that would make for an awkward scenario. Are grandchildren allowed, or that next generation down allowed as a cohabitant in some cases?
Not to live, not
Typically
not in any community that I'm aware of.
Gotcha.
They can visit, but not live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that opens up a whole nother conversation that I know we can't tackle today, because I know that there are grandparents out there who are on the front side of independent living or assisted living, who are caring for a young child, and sometimes that child they're caring for have needs of their own that can't be ignored, and there's no one else to take care of them. I can imagine that creates a really difficult dynamic of how to solve that. Don't know the answer, but but assisted living for an elderly person is not the space for that dependent child.
Now, transportation, that's also a key issue. People get older and they may lose their driver's license or ability to get around.
So
Not you, Teddy.
Keep in mind, buddy, I don't care.
You keep in mind until the day you have to pry it from your cold, dead hand or fingers or whatever. So is that also part of the assisted living picture, is transportation to get go to the store or whatever you might need? Is that part of it typically?
Typically, yes.
It can be. Okay.
Medical transportation being the primary concern. And then it would vary by community as to how often they could do like individual errand type of transportation or group trips to like the grocery store to the drugstore or something like that. So that would differ by community.
And I would wager that that's changed significantly, Nikki, with the growth of Uber and Lyft, and even as Dean mentioned, that I have a Tesla that I can just sit in it and say, "Hey, Tesla, take me to the bar," and it knows which bar I want to go to. But seriously, I would, that it's not as important for continued care retirement communities to have buses or vehicles that go everywhere anymore, because now it actually could be cheaper just to get an Uber once a week.
If people feel comfortable doing that, yes.
Yeah, I get
and
that.
There's actually programs out there that help older adults manage getting an Uber or a Lyft if they are uncomfortable using an app.
Good point. Good point. Yeah. And there's also other agencies in Advanced North Carolina, Davie County area. There's Yvetty, I don't know if I'm saying it right, YV, which is YVetty, thank you. That's that helps people shuffle around wherever they want to shuffle around. Yeah.
Yes.
So assisted living could be as easy. And by the way, another thing about medicine that we're talking about, because I have a family that I'm involved with, understanding how to get their medicine to them every morning, every afternoon. There's freaking machines now that sit beside the toaster that you look at it, and I'm being stupid with it, reads your eyes and knows, here's your medicine, and the other person walks up to it and goes, here's your medicine. Makes it easier to do now.
Hey, Teddy, something I want to work in while I'm thinking about it, and we can get to it later if need be. And this was something we talked about when we had some of the financial planner folks on a few months ago, and it's death, dying, retirement planning, financial planning, end of life planning, retire, all that stuff. Nobody wants to talk about that. I mean, you're going to sit down and so I'm curious as how, or tips you have for, let's say, the generation below, maybe to initiate that conversation, that dialogue, or just how to start that conversation, because families have to deal with this at some point. We don't, Teddy, if you want to keep rolling, we can tackle that later, but I think that's a valid thing to bring up.
Yeah, we will, because I'm actually a part of those conversations.
Yeah, you are.
It's tough to tell an aging parent who doesn't need help that this parent does need help, and we've got to figure out a way to accommodate
Yeah,
that. So,
yeah.
all right, so independent living, assisted living, and then there's a next step up, and then skilled nurse facility.
Skilled nursing. Yeah, the SNF is skilled nursing facility.
So talk a little bit about that now, Nikki.
So that's the typical, when people think of a nursing home, that's what skilled nursing is. So there are standalone skilled nursing, there's for-profit, nonprofit, but that is also a component of a continuing care retirement community to have those 3 levels of care: independent, assisted, and skilled nursing.
Yeah. And skilled nursing is going to be wherever the phrase soup to nuts came from. Everything that you would think that a person would need help with from skilled nursing.
Most things. So really hands-on assistance with all the activities of daily living would be what your typical skilled nursing has. Now, one of the things that skilled nursing also usually has is a contracted service or somebody in-house that will do occupational, physical, and speech therapy. Because a lot of times people come to a skilled nursing on a temporary basis to get that rehabilitation and then return to where they were living previously.
Gotcha. Yeah. And that's a big deal. I mean, help someone overcome a challenge that is perceived to be temporary, but they don't know how to overcome it. And on their own, they can't.
I can see if somebody falls and they break a hip or break an ankle, you know, there's got to be a higher level of care versus, you know, make sure you take your medicine and so forth. But I'm just wondering that the skilled nursing, how far that differs, let's say, from checking into the hospital where somebody has to, you know,
they could certainly, I mean, the hospital obviously could handle really anything, where skilled nursing could be like more end of life care for people that are very heavy in needs with all their activities of daily living. It could be that they have a skilled nursing need, like they have a wound of some type. So wound care, IV, antibiotics, feeding tubes. So more intensified care. But then if it's, you know, too great, a regular run-of-the-mill nursing home may not, you might have to go to, there's a subacute level of kind of skilled nursing, and then the hospital.
What about memory care too? That was a question.
Hang on to that. Hang on to that, Randy, because that was in my mind as Bruce was typing it.
Yeah, and, you want to take our break, I guess. Let's do that then.
Well, no, we got 2 minutes. Let's talk about let's talk about memory care. Where does that fall into this hierarchy of CCRC?
So memory care is usually either at the assisted living level or the skilled nursing level. So that would be an important thing to find out if you have a loved one that needs memory care, like what are their needs? Most, you know, if it's earlier on in the process of memory loss, then it might be in an assisted living, because they really just need to help with reminders to eat or to take medication or to not wander outside. Versus at the end of life, or when they have heavier needs, a skilled nursing memory unit still might be needed, because they might not remember that, oh, I can't walk so well, and continually try to get up. So hopefully your memory care that you find out there has increased activities and staff that engage with the folks that are in there, so that they have, you know, because it's really engaging their minds, so that they don't say, oh, I need to get out of here, I need to go back home.
Yeah, and again, I'm very in tune with all of this because of the groups, the folks that I'm trying to help through some of this. And you're right, engagement is vital. It's absolutely critical for people who are transversing or getting into that memory care challenges. At some point, there's only so much you can do, but if the earlier you start with that engagement, the earlier you start with keeping their mind focused on something beyond what they think is painful, the better it's going to be. It's unreal. So All right, cool. Hey, it's 11:30. It's 12:30 Eastern Standard Time. You're on Lunch Conversations with Randy and Teddy. Our special guest today is not my great niece, Nikki Burris, but in fact, Nikki Burris from Salemtowne in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. The conversation is all about retirement living options. And so far, we've just discovered what is independent living, what is assisted living. We talked a little bit about skilled nursing support and memory care. So, Nikki, these are all could be independent standalones, but they could all be a part of a bigger solution that is CCRC.
Correct.
So talk a little bit about what CCRC is and how it works in the context of these different services.
Okay, so a continuing care retirement community offers the 3 levels of care. Memory care could be like a 4th level, so that would be something you would need to find out if your particular one that you're looking at has that or not. So a CCRC is basically it's a contract for life. One of our residents here used to always say that you're really trading home ownership for a lifetime of care. Because most CCRCs, there are some equity-based models out there, but most CCRCs, it's more like a lease agreement where you pay an entry fee and then you pay a monthly fee for all the services that you would receive.
So I love it, Nikki, an equity arrangement into a CCRC, and I'm being facetious with Teddy. I don't want to put equity into something that I'm gonna get rid of real soon. But that's all going to go to my kids. And I'm joking, but I get it. I get it. There probably are. I can see how there could be arrangements where equity and investment could be worthwhile in a big picture. Are there any equity CCRCs around?
There are. So the closest one to here, I think, is in Burlington. Twin Lakes is a equity-based model, and so I'm sorry, not Twin Lakes. The Cedars at Chapel Hill is an equity-based model. There's some in Charlotte. And basically, it is your initial investment, you would get some back. So what other folks that aren't that type of contract, they might offer different refundable plans where your initial investment that's called an entrance fee is refundable at, say, 50% or 90%. So you do get some of that back.
Yeah, that's interesting. I've not thought about that, but I kind of get, you're buying into something, and then you're gonna pay for the services you get once you're in there. Yeah. So go back to CCRC in a big picture. So talk about that, how that works.
All right. So to be labeled a continuing care retirement community, you have to be licensed by the state of North Carolina's Department of Insurance. That's our licensing body. So there's different contract types of different CCRCs. And basically what that contract type allows you is your entrance fee, the large lump sum of money that you pay to enter the community, based on the contract type, is how much of a health benefit you will get back. So, for example, Salemtowne is the middle of the road. It's called a Type B modified. And what that means is the burden of future care cost and higher levels of care is shared between the resident and the community. So that, i.e., equals a 20% discount into higher levels of care. So that's something that would be written in the contract that you would want to look at. So other people that or other CCRCs might offer free days in skilled nursing or assisted living, and that's their health benefit. So the different contract types mean how much of a health benefit you would get in the future. So there is one that's called a Type C, that's fee for service. That means there would be the burden of future care cost is solely on the resident.
Is the entry cost to get into a Type C lower because you're going to have to eat the whole bill when it comes due anyway, right? Yeah,
it is. Type A, where basically it's the burden of future care is borne by the community, that's the highest, and then a B, and then
Yeah.
a C.
It's like your deductible and insurance. Pay higher a deductible. You want a higher deductible, you don't pay as much going in, and you just hope you don't have to burn it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And
In
so there's
layman's
lots of variations, and the magic is,
Yeah.
what do you need today, and what is it the right phrase? What do you perceive you're going to need tomorrow? And
Yeah, I would investigate the contract types with the different places that you're looking at, but more importantly, I would look at, go and visit, because does this feel right to you? I mean, do you feel at home? Do you feel like you fit in here? Does it feel comfortable to you? Do you like the people that you meet? Because you'll be living around the other residents. So is it the right fit for you? And does it have what you desire? I mean, that's the key piece. And then make sure that you compare apples to apples by reading different contracts to make sure that you understand what you are being promised and what you are promising that community.
I'm curious, are there what I'll call independent counselors, if you will? So let's say I walk into Salemtowne. Well, I'm going to get the Salemtowne pitch. I'm going to hear, the value of what you guys do and all that. So I'm going to get the pitch from you, and I go down the street to somebody who does what you do. I'm going to get their pitch, and everybody's pitch is great and it sounds great. Is there a body or a nonprofit or something out there that looks at your situation and then can maybe not make recommendations exactly on which facility to use, but can at least alert you to what the questions are you need to ask, so that when you go into, whether it's Salemtowne or somewhere else, you go in loaded with the questions you need to get answered? Because a lot of people, we don't know what we don't know.
yeah.
And to us,
Exactly.
they may all be the same. So help us understand that as a consumer. Are there people who are batting for us in this thing?
So I want to answer that a couple of different ways.
Okay.
One is, you can research on the internet. You can say, like, what questions do I need to ask to get the answers to? And that's free. There's a great site out there called My Life Site. And it was created by some financial guys that really looked at the finances behind CCRCs, but they have done a ton of research, and they have a ton of free articles to help you make the right decision and ask the right question. But if you want somebody to walk beside you and you want to pay for that service, there are geriatric care managers that can help you do the research and find what's best for you. I will say, though, I hope if you come to Salemtowne, you don't get a pitch. I would rather we're going to ask you more questions than we're going to talk to you, because again, that I don't feel that's my role. My role is not to sell you. My role is to understand what you want. And it might not be Salemtowne, but at least you could leave with me pointing you in a direction that might be a better fit for you.
Well, that's reassuring, and you may be in the majority, but you also may be in the minority with that. And a lot of times you walk in, whether it's a car lot or you walk into any place and you're going to consume a product, you're going to hear the good about their organization, and so you want to go in with your eyes open as best you can. And so I appreciate you sharing that.
And I have experienced CCRCs lately. I now have some as clients. And it's interesting. You walk into one complex, you walk in the front door, and this simple picture, there's that lady at the front desk. There are some that are eager to say hello. There are some who are not. And better, and even more importantly to that, because that's just one person, walk the streets, walk the sidewalks, walk into the park, walk into the dining hall, walk into the rec room. And some, you walk in and people spot you. Now, I'm being a little facetious when I say they see new blood, but they spot you and you see that they're happy to say hello to you, happy to engage with you in a polite and friendly, jovial way. There are some where you walk in there and you go, they can't be happy because they're not showing it. Yeah. And those are telling engagements right there.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right.
Yep.
You got Randy? You have
Well,
thought?
I wanted to dive into that question about how do you initiate that conversation with a loved one. I remember, again, we all have stories. So, mine is no different from others, whether it's trying to take the car keys away from somebody who can't drive now, or Teddy's shaking his head. Teddy's not you. It may be you if you keep after it.
I'm with you.
But it's a difficult conversation, planning for your future, whether it's finances, health, or ultimately death. And, how do you want to handle that in terms of having a will? A lot of people don't have a will. What advice would you give to somebody, let's say somebody like me, or maybe somebody, again, who's got that aging parent? How should we tackle that? What advice do you have for them?
Well, it's not an easy conversation to have,
No.
for sure. So I think the important thing is to start the conversation.
Okay.
I mean, you don't go into it with a lot of anxiety, like, oh my gosh, we have to make the decision based on this one conversation. Just start a conversation like, hey, have you ever thought about what you want to do? Do you want to keep on living here? Do you want to potentially move? Like, what are your friends doing? And so often I think that even the older adult that's thinking about it, they are scared to have that conversation with their adult children, because if they do want to move, they don't know how that child might react to that, because you might be leaving a childhood home. And so I have seen both sides, but I would say 90% of our residents would tell you this is the biggest gift I gave my kids, is moving here, so that they know someone is here to help me in case I need assistance. But it is a matter of just sitting down and just saying, hey, you could even say, hey, I listened to this podcast today. There was this girl on there talking about retirement living options. Have you guys ever even thought about that? Like, what, is there something like, can I help you with that?
Yeah.
I mean, with my mom, I've always said, well, just remember, I'm going to be picking your nursing home, I work in the industry.
Them, Nikki.
So I can
nice
joke with her about that.
Yeah.
But when a crisis occurs, that is not a great time to be making decisions. And if your parent can't make them, it will be up to you. And so, and I just want to give one other recommendation, because we talk about this as well. I volunteer with an organization called ACAP, Adult Children of Aging Parents. And it does educational once a month at Highland Presbyterian Church. It's on the third Tuesday of every month. And this is a topic that is covered, how to start that conversation. But it's all about resources to help those adult children with all these different questions that they have. Last month, we had a whole session on Medicare, because there's a gazillion different types of Medicare Advantage plans, and how do you help your parent understand those and navigate through, because there are, a lot of sales pitches in those. So that's a wonderful resource. You can look at it at acapcommunity.org.
I got it. I'll share that. Yeah. So as soon as my computer decides it's going to work. So cool. And there's ACAP communities all over the place. Am I right?
There are different chapters. It started in Hickory, North Carolina. So there are chapters in Winston-Salem and Greensboro
and Georgia and New Jersey.
Yes, Pennsylvania, I think, has one or so.
Yeah. So, all right, Nikki, let's move to another discussion.
Okay.
Continued care retirement communities is one idea. The other idea is, I like my 6,200 square foot home. I ain't leaving it.
Well, that's what I hear all the time.
You might get lost in it, Teddy, though. It's got like 10 bedrooms and,
I'll
5
give you an
bathrooms.
example. My father-in-law has been paying for 40 years for what's it called? Long-term
care insurance.
Long-term care insurance. Been paying for it for 40 years. And he has said from day one, when I met him, all on, and even to today, 45 years later, not leaving the house. My wife is not leaving the house. Now he has the wherewithal because he's been paying for that forever. Talk about what are some solutions, some ideas about how an organization can help people who want to stay home.
Okay. So if you want to stay home, that's wonderful. And that is my biggest competition, is the people that want to stay home. It is not Arbor Acres or Brookridge. It's the people, and most people do. I hate giving seminars and say, how many people want to move to a community? And nobody raises their hand. And I say, how many people want to stay home? And everybody has their hand up. So, and there are home care agencies out there that can help provide care in your home should you ever need it. And there's also private individuals. I work with some of my coworkers. They were private, what they call sitters for folks in their homes that just wanted to stay there and maybe needed somebody there 24/7. So there's lots of different ways to do that. But again, it can be a complicated system, because what do you do if your caregiver doesn't show up? And a lot of times adult children are having to manage that, because it can be challenging as well. So that is one of the things that is new to our industry, is if you have long-term care insurance, that's super great. Keep it. It's an asset. But if you don't, or this can also couple with long-term care insurance, Salemtowne about 9-10 years ago, we got it's something new to our state. It's been around since the 80s up in the Northeast, but new to North Carolina, is something called continuing care at home. And so it is basically like a long-term care insurance policy, but it has a person like me that coordinates all the care for you, so you don't have to do it. And your adult child doesn't have to do it, because when you really start thinking about it, and it goes back to Randy's question about how do you start that conversation, because it's about preserving your role as child and parent versus now the child is the caregiver for the parent. And if you want to do that, that's great. But if you need a little assistance, then you might want to look into something like this, continuing care at home. You do have to medically qualify for it, but you pay today for future care costs. So like a long-term care insurance policy, it pays for care in the future, but you get a person that you know that will get to know you, that will get to know your loved one. So when there is a need, you call them, and then they get to work and they arrange all of that for you.
Yeah. Which, by the way, is often some of the most difficult work an adult child has to do for the parent, is that, got to go to this doctor, got to go to that doctor, got to make sure you get the medicines, got to, and other things, the making sure stuff happens, the coordination sometimes can be over freaking whelming.
Yeah. And especially if they're out of town and they can't, leave work to come drive you if somebody, so the logistics can play a role as well. So this is a pretty cool product. You say it's been around up in the Northeast for a while, but now it's here in North Carolina.
Yeah.
What about elsewhere in the country?
And there's there's only about 40 of these in the United States. And they are all over, but a main concentration is that Northeast. And we are lucky, for 9 years, we have operated pretty solo in North Carolina. So it's a very new concept, but this 2023 introduced 2 new programs, one in the mountain, kind of the western part of the state, and one kind of Raleigh East. So we're very happy to have friends that offer this product as well.
Well, I have a question. I've got friends that are in the business, and and maybe this is just exactly what you're talking about, but it goes by a different name and I can't remember what it is. But let's say I'm getting up there in age and I need help with maybe bathing or making sure I get my medicine or whatever. And whether it's a CNA or it's some, I'll call it nurse, but I don't know if it's a skilled nurse, but I'm part of their round, like the mailman, and they come to my place for a certain period of time and stay with me and bathe me. And, maybe, I don't know if they vacuum and do other stuff, but what is that called? Is that at home
So that
nursing or
that
something
would
like
just
that?
be home health.
Home health.
So you have home
Home
health
health?
assistants. So there's home
Okay.
care agencies out there. So there's a couple of different types. There's a home health care, which could
Okay.
provide you like skilled needs. Like you could have therapy, like physical therapy or occupational therapy in your home. You could have a nurse that could come and do services for you in your home. And then there's the home care agency that's going to provide you. The CNA is called a certified nursing assistant. They might also have a certified companion or a home health aide. So there are different types of services that can provide, but that's once you need care, then that's who you would have to figure out which agency to call and then get them to provide that care. Navigation at Home by Salemtowne, our program, you have to buy in early, like you're buying long-term care insurance. You have to buy in when you're healthy. You can't already need care. And then when the need arises, you don't have to worry about who to call and is that a good agency or a bad agency. We don't provide the care ourselves. We partner with home care agencies that we then call on to provide that care for you.
So if somebody wants to know more about that, how do they, go to your website or again, what questions to ask? How do we know where to go to find answers?
You can go to our website, navigationathome.org. I think Teddy sent that out earlier.
I'll share it again.
Or salemtowne.org. You can link over to the navigation site from there as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A question, Nikki, and I should know the answer to this, but I don't. Does Navigation at Home have the same style of type A, type B, type C? Or is it one primary membership?
It is, well, there's different plan types. And so that is like how much of a percentage coverage you're going to have.
Okay.
So future care coverage could be at 100%. It could be at 75%. It could be at 50%. So it does depend on which plan type that you're interested in. Also, if you already have long-term care insurance, we can help you understand your policy. A lot of people buy it and then they put it away and then they forget about it and say, oh, I'll get that when I need it later. So we can dust off those insurance policies, read through them, help you pick what would best. We don't want you to double pay. So help you figure out which navigation plan type would best couple with what you already have.
And there are also lots of people out there who have been paying for long-term care for a long time and believe it's all this. And then when they go to use it, they discover it's not. So understanding what you sign up for and then looking at it years later when you go to need it is important as well, because yeah, it's critical. We believe it's something that it isn't, and it may still be valuable, but it's not everything that we thought it was going to be. Yeah. So Nikki, this is good. I mean, I really appreciate you coming and sharing. If there's one thing that we didn't talk about that you want to make sure that our audience understands, what is that?
Well, you did say what would be one thing to remember. And so we did kind of talk about it, but don't wait too long. That's really it. I mean, so many people say, oh, I wish I would have done this sooner, but it also goes, talk to your family, or if it's your spouse, go ahead and start that conversation, understand what the wishes are, because that becomes really critical. Just start the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm with you. You need to start the conversation with the family and with potential service providers, because the worst thing you could do is go knock on the door at a continuous care retirement center and go, I need help now.
Yeah.
And they can't help you.
Yeah.
So
Is
good
that
stuff.
I'm just real curious, and maybe a yes or no, or just real quick. Companies are being more creative with the different benefits, whether it's pet insurance or you name it, all kinds of stuff. So is there any way companies can help offset this? Is that something that's coming on the horizon, maybe in terms of benefits for potential employees? Just real quick. Any thoughts?
I don't know. That would be great, but I don't think so.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I got you.
Because
Thanks.
remember, Randy, once you go into independent living or assisted living, you ain't wanting to work. They don't have access to you. I mean, but Dean, I'm going to respond to Dean's question. Dean, in that context of people mistreating loved ones that they're supposed to care for, I would encourage you to start with your local authorities, whoever that is. I don't know, but definitely start with local authorities.
There is something called an ombudsman, and that if your loved one is in skilled nursing, they should have near the front door the listing of a local ombudsman, and that's a great person to reach out to because they can help be a liaison between you and the facility.
Yeah, good. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you. So
good to know.
Nikki, again, my great niece satirically stated, not related. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
So, Randy, who's up next week, man?
Well, just real quick, and I enjoy these conversations. I was at a point in life where it didn't impact me. Both my parents passed without me being involved in those types of decisions, but I can certainly sympathize and empathize with folks that have to go through that, and it's not something I would relish having to do. But yet, your loved ones put in a lot of time to raise you, and it's the least you can do to be there when they need you. And so I appreciate all of what you shared. Next week, we're gonna have a little fun. Any of us ever, and now Teddy, it's not you, because you're one of 15 kids and parents and everything else. So and grandkids and everything else. So
it's a party every time.
I know you never have family conflict at any holiday, Thanksgiving, Christmas, at anything like that. But Thanksgiving is just around the corner. So it's Christmas, and we're going to have Paul Levac. Now he's out of Greensboro, and he is a conflict resolution specialist. So we're going to talk about, and we all know those relatives and folks that, you like to see them and like, hey, it's getting late. Yeah, nice to see you. And, and that kind of thing. How are we going to diffuse those situations? How do you gird your loins, so to speak, as you prepare for, as you prepare for a festive event that has become known as Thanksgiving. But we're going to have him on. Actually, also, Leslie Spees is going to sub for Teddy while he's out being festive with his family, trying not to pull his hair out.
Yeah.
So there's that.
I will definitely watch that that day, because I have Thanksgiving dinner in Maryland the following day. And so I need some help, dude, because these people are a bunch of freaking weirdos.
And also, I'll tell you, Leslie, I mean, she's in HR, and a lot of what she does is deal with employees and coaching and how to work through difficult conversations. So when I told her who the topic was and the topic and the guest, she was like, we're going to have a good time. Anyway, that'll be next week on the 22nd, and it'll be at 12 noon. I'll be the host, Teddy. I hope I don't screw it up.
You got it, man. Again,
away.
To our audience, we love you guys. Thanks for showing up. We appreciate it. Randy, good seeing you again. Nikki.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you next time. All right, bye.